Hello, good morning, and welcome to a very bright and sunny Newark Marina, where I left my boat, narrowboat Gentian, at the end of the first hop in the journey of bringing it back down from Lincoln to the Midlands, where I'm going to moor it permanently. And I'm doing this in several hops over several weekends. So the first one was Lincoln to Newark. Today, this weekend, it is Newark to Nottingham. Strictly not Nottingham, Beeston, which is just to the west of Nottingham, but Nottingham is easier to find on a map, probably. It's a lovely day. It's going to be about 6 hours cruising today to probably Stoke Bardolph Lock, I hope, and then I'll moor there overnight, and then about 6 hours in the morning through Nottingham along the Nottingham and Beeston Canal until I get out back onto the river again where the Beeston Marina is.
As I pottered about getting ready for the off, the local rowing club came back fresh from their morning exertions. Oh look, I'd been moored next to Aquaholic. No, not that one. This was just another boat of similar nomenclature. At 9:45, I began heading out from the marina and back onto the main river flow. The rev counter was still in its optimistically overachieving mood. It turns out the old movie cliché of tapping the instruments actually works, as when I did so, the revs went down to what was almost certainly the right number. It was a beautiful day, if a bit breezy. Not the speed limit, but the distance. To where, I don't know. You can see how shallow the river is at the edges here. Speaking of speed, I seem to recall that the limit here is 4 miles an hour like on the canals because of the houses and the moorings. Further on, where the river winds through the countryside, you can do 6 upstream and 8 down. This barge sounds interesting, but unfortunately their website has not been updated lately.
On such a lovely weekend, and the early May bank holiday weekend at that, I am expecting some sort of boating traffic. I've already heard a little bit of chatter on the VHF from another boater, so I shall have to keep my eyes peeled. Whether it will actually become busy, I don't know. I'm not sure if it's the kind of river that becomes busy. We shall see.
And I saw almost immediately, with more rowers coming downstream, I tooted to let them know I was there. There was also much busyness from this navy of swans, with an excited sheepdog in the distance coming down to talk to them. This is actually someone's back garden. How nice is that? By the way, if you've ever wondered how I steer the boat while holding the camera up high for this kind of shot, here's the answer. You stick the tiller end up your bum, then wiggle to adjust your heading. My bottom and I avoided the swans and managed to miss this solo rower coming round the corner too. No sooner had we passed than I was overtaken by a much more powerful cruiser. There's a power station on the riverbank just ahead. You'll see it better in a minute. But before that, you turn around this bend and out from the narrow confines of the river section that flows through Newark and back out onto the much wider River Trent, where it splits off to bypass the town. Notice the frankly terrifying and unbarriered weir to the right, which would carry a boat off to its doom if you got too close, if the river levels were in fast flood, or if your engine failed. I've only gone past here a couple of times, and I get stressed about how clean my diesel fuel is every time, because one wrong splutter and cough from the fuel system and I could be toast. It's alright when you've got wings and can fly off at the first hint of trouble. There's the power station at Staythorpe. It's a gas turbine facility producing up to 1.8 gigawatts. That's more than enough to power a flux capacitor, or almost 3 million homes, they say. I don't know if they still do, but it used to take in cooling water from the river. Yet another cruiser came past me with ease, my boat's little engine almost flat out against the current just to edge forward at 4 miles an hour. That's another marina, which would have been my backstop if I couldn't have gone into Newark Marina. Ah, there we go, I was right.
Exactly 1 hour has passed. I seem to be going a little bit slower than I'd planned. I'm taking about 12 minutes per kilometre, and I'm having to work it out in kilometres because, of course, they mark the rivers in kilometres. I'd rather be doing 10 or 11 minutes per kilometre, ideally 10, so I've increased the revs a tiny bit. We'll see if we can pick up a little bit of pace, but it's all good. 2 boats come past, a few rowers. Other than that, all okay so far.
A narrowboat, the first of several I'd passed that day. I guess that's how the farmers water their fields. I'm assuming that's a pump. I noticed that since I tapped the glass, the rev counter was behaving. And I'd remembered not only my VHF radio, but also some snacks. It really was busy on the river that day. A moment after that boat came past, I encountered a wide beam coming towards me and yet another cruiser coming past. It was like the M6 going round Birmingham on a Friday afternoon, and my narrowboat was bobbing around like an apple being dunked in a barrel. But soon enough, I was alone again, and I was getting cold.
It's very cloudy, and there's a heck of a strong breeze, so I'm trying a new experiment to keep warm, standing inside the boat and reaching behind me to steer. It actually works.
Whoosh! Oh, look at those waves. My boat's practically surfboarding. The village of Fiskerton came into view. There are a lot of tempting looking moorings along here, but they're privately owned, and I imagine you're liable to be shouted at if you try to use them. That said, there are general moorings at the pub, but unsurprisingly, they were very popular. I carried on, my destiny lay elsewhere. That'll be Hazelford Lock coming into view, and just as I got there, another boat came out, crewed by some lovely viewers of my channel. We had a quick chat, and then I lined up on the approach to the lock. Via the VHF set, the lockie had told me there was another boat coming down, so I needed to wait, hence the red lights. So I floated in the middle of the channel for a bit and had some much-needed sustenance. After a 15-minute pause, the lights switched to green and I could go in. The procedure is standard. Rope the centre line round the riser, signal all OK to the lockie, and wait for the water to rise. While I'd waited, another boat had joined me, but there was, as you can see, plenty of space. It takes about 15 minutes to do the lock, and by now it was almost 1 PM. There's an interesting selection of boats moored along here. One day I will go to the other extreme and have a colossal Dutch barge style of boat to live on. I'd probably never go anywhere, but just live on it. Perhaps Gentian could be the tender. My thoughts began to turn to the plan for the evening's stopover.
With Hazelford Lock done, it's now about 9 kilometres or so, I think, to, what's it called? Gunthorpe Lock, and then a further 6 or so kilometres to Stoke Lock, which is where I'm hoping to moor tonight. I don't think there's a lot of mooring, and it is a busy bank holiday, so I'm really hoping nobody else decides that Stoke is the place to be on a Saturday night. We shall find out, because apparently there's no lockkeeper on today at Holm Lock, which is the next one after that. I don't really want to be doing these massive locks myself, even they are hydraulic and you turn a key and press a button and stuff, but it's just a bit of a faff. So ideally, moor up at Stoke, and then tomorrow there is supposed to be a lockie on at Holm Lock as I head towards Nottingham.
With the scenery just countryside until the next lock, here's a bit of a montage. That's not a two-headed goose, it is two geese next to each other. Is that kayaker using a sail? Is that even allowed? A moment later and the sail was gone, like some figment of my imagination. Was it ever really there? Gunthorpe Lock is what's coming up, and it suddenly vomited rowers from its gaping mouth. Lots of rowers, while the cruiser and I held station. Going up, 3rd floor, lingerie and ladies' wear. I had pondered stopping here, and the Canal Plan guide had suggested it, but by heck it was popular on this bank holiday weekend. It turns out there's a pub near here, and all the boaters had been lured, perhaps by the notion of a nice G&T by the water. I decided to stick with the plan from earlier.
With Gunthorpe Lock done, it's now 7 kilometres to Stoke Lock, where hopefully there'll be a mooring. The Lockie at Gunthorpe kindly radioed ahead, and they reckon there will be. Of course, it could all change in an hour, but they think there might be.
This narrowboat was crewed by viewers of this channel. Hello to you again. Watch out, Swan, they're coming for you with an evil eye. You'd not think a little water outflow would push you sideways in a big river, but I did feel this and had to steer to compensate. First the sheep heading south, now the cows. Do they know something I don't? Was I going the wrong way?
Coming now up to Stoke Lock, where I hope to moor. I have been warned, both by the lockkeeper and the prior lockkeeper, there is some sort of sandbar right in front of the lock entrance, and told to avoid it by steering to the left and then veering into the lock at the last minute. This sounds like a recipe for disaster. I shall approach with great caution, I think.
I took a convoluted course as advised, though I felt a bit silly doing so, as I couldn't see any sign of anything under the water, but I'd been assured it's there. Anyway, I made it to the lock without incident. And in a jiffy I was out the other side, having been told the moorings were just around the corner.
This is home sweet home for the night, Stoke Bardolph Lock. Or is it just called Stoke Lock? Anyway, it's a lock, and I'm tied up. And then tomorrow I press on to Nottingham, through Nottingham, out to Beeston.
It was a little bit awkward tying up here because of the height of the wall. The next morning, I would discover my mistake. But that's to be revealed in the next video. Meanwhile, I settled down for a pleasant evening, as well as a trip to the Elsan point to empty my toilet tank. Lovely. Thanks for watching. Cheerio.